today. So what is your point for the good? What have you brought as our first point, Nero?
Yeah, I mean it's a bit pandery with the Alexi V love, but I kind of wanted to point out the start of Na'Vi because I think like a lot of people, me included, probably thought they'd start kind of shaky. Like I thought Bits English would be an issue. I think Simple learning a new system, Blade and Alexi B is like a little bit clashing, both wanting to be the main guy. Like I thought they'd start badly, and I think actually results wise, like maybe not always eye test wise, and maybe not always like the pieces we thought were firing, but results wise, they've actually had a very good start. So they've qualified for full finals. I think Pro League, like as much as it's still Pro League, it's fairly Mickey Mouse. Like they've still made it out of their group without dropping them out. Like this is kind of progression that you want to see. And then when a lot of the other teams out of the summer are struggling quite a lot to kind of get a new team working, I think we're seeing an uptrend at Na'Vi when maybe we didn't expect one. And that's even with Ema being like nowhere near the sorrow for low we sort of wanted him to be, and Alexi B is already adapting to that, and we've seen Bit at Pro League kind of taking a bit more of that mantle, and I think generally that's kind of impressive for Na'Vi, even if like we're not expecting them to be 2021 Na'Vi, but I think they're doing much better than I thought they would be this quickly, basically.
Okay. Where are you at on this one, Maui? I actually don't think we talked about it now for a while.
No, we really haven't. I think we've given this team a bit of the pass, a pass, just because Blade, that is, was saying that he was hoping by ESL Pro League is when they would start figuring things out. And I would say that for me, when I was watching this team throughout their Pro League group stage, I was pretty keyed into how EMA was integrating. So it's cool that you bring up the other facets of their game right now, because really the beginning of them, I was most disappointed by EMA. And so for him to actually do very well against FaZe was, to me, showing that, okay, he's starting to finally find comfort in his roles, because sometimes I would just see Ema create losing conditions for Na'Vi, like dying when he's on a lurk kind of position, or he's kind of in a pivotal role, and sometimes he would just seemingly play carelessly, and I just feel like he didn't know where he was supposed to slot into the system necessarily. So for him to come up big in this group stage at least speaks that he's starting to figure things out. And I'll say beyond that, the bit of the resurgence from Bit here, where he was kind of having a shaky year, it seemed like, especially when Electronic was calling, and now I actually think that Bit is playing significantly better under Alexi B. That to me is really interesting. I'm not sure. I would love to know more reasons as to why some of these players that are having these light role shifts and really just a different style of calling that they're playing under can now find just varied amounts of success, because it's usually like when we see one player change on a certain team, you'll see like, okay, maybe a couple people have to change their roles. They might be a little bit worse. Maybe they'll get a little bit better from those positions. But this is such a drastic change for a handful of them, at least under this, in terms of the style for T sides, that I was pretty worried for quite some time. And I'm not gonna go out though and say that this victory over FaZe to secure, what is it, top 8 now in ESL Pro League, or is it top 10 or something, or top 12? I don't know if I'm necessarily going to say that to me is Na'Vi now becoming a championship contender, because I frankly haven't been super impressed by FaZe. And then their only other real victory to me was over Apex. And I mean, that team is okay, but I'm also not super high on them either. And if like, say Na'Vi were coming out of Group D, I would say I would have more to believe in.
Okay. Right, first and foremost, I don't know why you're apologising for liking Alexi B. So something wrong with being just objectively right. When did that become a problem? I believe in tolerance. It's the same reason why I actually don't think that everyone who likes the Twilight series should be killed. I believe they should be allowed to live among us as if they were sentient beings like us, and we'll just treat them as if they were, worthy of voting rights, air, oxygen, all that sort of good stuff. No, here's my problem with that, because that's one thing, by the way, as an aside on this. Like, I love when all these people are just saying that like MSL was never good. Now it's like, it actually makes you look stupid. Then, guys, like, are you like a fan of the best Astralis team ever? Well, then they're shit, then, aren't they? Because they'll be buying twice, mate. He was the fucking opera of that team. How bad must they be? It's garbage. Don't remember Team Liquid ever getting spanked by an awful that, so just letting you know. No, but here's the thing. I actually do think that we took the right approach on this one, which is everyone did the usual HLTV thing where they, as in the forums, where they just like overreact to every single result. Like, they win one, like, oh, lol, everyone who said this is wrong, come here. And then it's like, oh, all the believers, you fucking idiots, they've lost the game to Heroic, whoever it was they played in that group. It's like, This was, to me, the team that on paper logically should take the longest of all to get up to speed. Like, it's a completely brand new project. It's not even as simple as like saying like with FaZe, like, oh, it's an international team. Like, bro, they just changed one player on that team. Like, at least they had the other four. And essentially on that team, by the way, the reason I used the FaZe example is when they first added Carrigan back, no one even complained. We all just gave them the rest of that year. We were like, right, it's been a while since you've been in the team. You know, it's gone back to LAN. We just gave them the rest of the time. Eventually, maybe they get it together one day. The problem with the NaVi team is like, because it's NaVi, you're supposed to believe they're supposed to win immediately, and Simple's supposed to win immediately because everyone still talks about fucking sports like he individually is winning the championship, if he's good or not. So to me, this already was like the most ambitious project probably ever at Tier 1. Like a completely brand new lineup with 5 totally different, 4 nationalities, and then also you're making people do a hard swap to speaking English who don't have to speak English before. So I did give them the biggest possible like sort of like pass initially, but I do think now is when you have to actually pay close attention. So now's actually a pretty good sign that they've sort of had this uptick in Pro League. Obviously, for me, like the next 2 LANs will basically seal it. Like, here's the problem. When I say give them a while, you don't really get like 5 LANs. So you have to eventually like start to like show like the ceiling. Like, that's the real problem I think this squad has at the moment. Is like, I don't think I've ever actually seen a game where it all came together in the same time. Like, they can have a game where simple frags and bit frags and maybe like a one map imma frags, or it's never been one game where the whole team just looked really good. So I am still a bit concerned about like that along the trajectory they're getting to wherever they're supposed to be. I will say, by the way, it is low-key actually genius from Blade. I hope every coach is paying attention. Because everyone on Reddit is such a moron, they just repeat what they're told, like some absolute idiot playing like telephone or something. Because Blade just went like, well, you know, I don't think we should really be able to, you know, judge this project until a few months in. People just kept going like, yeah, but the thing is, you can't actually judge them yet because Blade said. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, anyone could just say that. Like, spoiler, every coach out there, just say that when you make a brand new lineup change, just say some mad shit like that. Like, I don't think we should really be judged until about 9 months in after, you know, the first major or so. We're really inhumane not to do that. And then all the fans will just go, well, whatever he says, okay, that's the expectations. So here's the problem. I do think like it's fine for where they are at the moment, but you can't wait forever at the same time. If in the next 2 LANs there isn't like suddenly a jump up, I will start to get concerned, because the main problem I have with this lineup is like, I actually think if there is almost like some sort of mad curse following Alexi B in his career. So on the one hand, you can't complain. He did get like the best player ever, still in potentially like good form. It looks like he could get back to being one of the top 5 players again. But at the same time, the reason you've been done dirty is because every fan really thinks that it's like set in stone that like Imma and JL were like monsters because of the major. And it's like, we'll never get to know if they actually were. Like, there's no A-B control test. Like, they didn't go back to their teams and play like 4 LANs without Alexi B. So the joke is now, if either of those players fail, Alexi B will get blamed for it. Meanwhile, we don't actually know that they were ever that good. Like the Imma guy, by the way, the least sample size ever. It's 1 major, that's it. Yeah, it looked awesome, but it was 1 major ever. And quite frankly, in that team, he looked like he had like sort of like exactly all the spots he wanted. The JL one, I thought that was crazy that I've even picked him up. Like, I don't even get that one really. Like, just seems like a random pickup. So it was so shocking when you heard there was like spent all that money on it. It's like, the fuck? Like, it's like they were headhunting. Well, the jokes write themselves on that one. You know, in many ways, whenever you go for jail, you're always headhunting in some ways, Maui. I mean, after all, what else is he? Just a head with tiny little body and, you know, little peanut inside, rattling around in there, echoing the sound of almost making the final of a major. You know, the real sad thing, by the way, I'll just throw this in there, is if you ever go back and rewatch that Vitality versus Apex semi-final, not only is it plausible Apex would have won, but what the fuck would anyone have done if it had been Gamer Legion versus Apex in the major final? Like, it would actually low-key have made a mockery of every one of those players, like Guardian, Existence, that never won a major. That actually, for real, it would be like Kicksan against, like, fucking Knock. Like, who wins the major? The last ever, like, that's the world we live in. So anyway, the long story is, I do think that, like, they're probably overhyped and underhyped NaVi. Like, I think the potential is there. They haven't hit it at all. Like, I still think that they're far enough off. I'm not, like, super hyped. But I definitely do think, like, people were going way too hard early. Like, there was always some promise in each of the matches they've shown for me. I don't think I've almost ever seen them get completely blown out and look shit. So I think for me, it's just, like I say, it's just a mega ambitious project. It'll either work out. I think there's only 2 ways this goes, by the way. I don't think they will stay like they are now, like the 11th best team or 9th best team. I think there's only 2 ways it goes. You either become legit top 10 or you just become terrible, probably become like 18th in the world or something. So that'll be my prediction. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.